The Vacuum Choir. A Sci-Fi Story. Part 1. The first sound came at 3:27 shipboard time. A thin, almost apologetic hum threading through the hull of the Argo Novice. It was so faint that most of the crew slept through it, wrapped in their thermal cocoons, drifting in the artificial gravity like seeds suspended in amber. Only Lieutenant Nina Cade, night shift comms officer, heard it clearly enough to sit up in her chair. She blinked at the console. No incoming transmissions. No proximity alerts. No radiation spikes. Nothing. Yet the sound persisted. A single note, high and wavering, like a finger tracing the rim of a crystal glass. Nina leaned closer to the bulkhead, pressing her ear against the cold alloy. The note quivered, rose half a tone, then fell again. Not mechanical, not structural, not anything she recognized from her years aboard long-range vessels. She held her breath. The note held with her as if listening back. Then it stopped. Nina exhaled slowly, her breath fogging the console's surface. She sat back, rubbed her eyes, and told herself it was fatigue. The Argo Novice had been in transit for 142 days, hauling cryosealed cargo from the outer colonies toward the inner trade routes. Long-range hauls were monotonous, and monotony bred tricks of the mind. Still, she logged the anomaly. 3.27 hull resonance detected. No source identified. Duration: 4.2 seconds. She hesitated before adding the last line. Sounded like singing? She deleted the line, retyped it, deleted it again. Finally, she left it blank and closed the log. The hum did not return for the rest of her shift. But Nina did not forget it. The silence between stars. By the time the crew gathered for the 9.00 briefing, the Argo Novice had slipped into an uncharted region of interstellar space. The navigation charts labeled it only as Sector 0140, a vast, starport gulf between mapped trade lanes. Ships passed through it often enough, but no one lingered. There was nothing to see, nothing to mine, nothing to study, just emptiness. Captain Reese Calder stood at the head of the briefing table, a tall, broad-shouldered man with the calm demeanor of someone who had spent more time in space than on any planet. His dark hair was tied back, and his uniform was crisp despite the long haul. "Morning," he said, tapping the holo display. "We're entering the null corridor. Expect reduced sensor fidelity for the next 48 hours. Gravity wells are minimal, stellar interference is low, and comms will be patchy." Chief Engineer Lien Zhou raised an eyebrow. "Patchy how?" "Long-range relays are sparse out here," Calder said. "We'll still have ship-to-ship if anyone's nearby, but don't count on it." "Anyone ever nearby in this place?" asked Dr. Sarah Vance, the ship's medic and xenobiologist. "Not usually," Calder admitted. Nina shifted in her seat. She considered mentioning the sound, but the words stuck in her throat. It felt too small, too strange, too easily dismissed. Calder continued. "We'll maintain standard watch rotations. If anything unusual pops up on sensors, report it immediately. The null corridor is quiet, but quiet doesn't mean safe." The crew nodded. The meeting ended. Nina lingered. Calder noticed. "Something on your mind, Lieutenant?" She hesitated. "I heard something last night." "Something?" "A resonance. Through the hull." Calder frowned. "Structural?" "No. It sounded like—" She stopped herself. "Like a tone. A note. Could be thermal contraction," Calder said. "The temperature gradient in the null can be extreme." "Maybe," Nina said, though she didn't believe it. "Log it and keep an ear out," Calder said. "If it happens again, run a spectral analysis." "Yes, sir." She left the briefing room feeling no more reassured than before. The second note. The second sound came 12 hours later. This time, everyone heard it. The Argo Novice was gliding through the null, engines humming at a steady 0.8 C, when the hull vibrated with a low, resonant chord. It was deeper than the first note, fuller, almost warm. The lights dimmed for a fraction of a second, and the air recyclers hiccuped. Nina was already running toward the comm station when the chord shifted, splitting into two harmonizing tones. They rose together, weaving around each other like twin strands of DNA. Then a third tone joined them, then a fourth. Within seconds, the ship was filled with a soft, impossible harmony. "Report," Calder barked over the intercom. Nina's fingers flew across the console. No external transmissions. No internal alarms. The sound is... She stopped. The sound was not coming through the speakers. It was coming through the hull. Joe's voice crackled over the channel. "Engineering here. We're reading microvibrations along the outer plating. No impact signatures. No debris. Could it be a gravitational anomaly?" Sarah asked. "Negative," Joe replied. "Grav sensors are flat." The harmony swelled, filling the ship like a choir warming up before a performance. Nina swallowed hard. "Captain, it's getting louder." Calder appeared on the bridge moments later, his expression tight. He listened for a few seconds, jaw clenched. "Record everything," he said. "Full spectrum analysis. I want to know what the hell this is." The tones shifted again, rising into a shimmering cascade that made Nina's skin prickle. It was beautiful, achingly so, but wrong. Wrong in a way she couldn't articulate. "Captain," she whispered. "Sound can't travel in a vacuum." "I'm aware," Calder said. The harmony faded as abruptly as it had begun. Silence returned, but it was no longer comforting. Words in the static. The crew gathered in the mess hall, tension thick in the recycled air. Joe projected the spectral analysis onto the wall. The waveform was unlike anything Nina had ever seen. Complex, layered, fractal. "This isn't mechanical," Joe said. "And it's not random." Sarah leaned forward. "Could it be a life form? In a vacuum?" Joe scoffed. "Unless it's vibrating the hull deliberately." "That's what worries me," Sarah said. Calder crossed his arms. "Could it be a sensor glitch?" "No," Joe said. The hull itself was resonating. Sensors only picked up the aftereffects. Nina cleared her throat. "There's something else." All eyes turned to her. "When the tones were fading, I thought I heard something. Not just notes. Patterns." "Patterns?" Calder asked. "Like speech, but not in any language I know." Joe frowned. "You think the ship was talking to you?" "No," Nina said. "I think something outside was trying to." A long silence followed. Calder finally spoke. "We'll run another analysis. If it happens again, we'll compare waveforms." Sarah looked uneasy. "Captain, if this is a life form, we need to consider the possibility that it's trying to communicate. Or trying to get in," Joe muttered. No one disagreed. The third event. It happened during the next sleep cycle. Nina was dreaming of Earth, of rain on metal rooftops, of wind through old city streets, when the singing returned. This time it was not a single harmony, but dozens, hundreds, a vast, layered chorus rising from the void. She jolted awake. The lights flickered. The hull thrummed like a struck bell. Nina stumbled out of her bunk and into the corridor. Other crew members were emerging from their quarters, eyes wide, faces pale. The singing grew louder, more complex, more human. Calder's voice boomed over the intercom. "All crew to stations. Now." Nina sprinted to the bridge. The moment she entered, she froze. The waveform on the main display was no longer random. It was structured, rhythmic, linguistic. Joe's voice trembled. "Captain, the resonance is matching our internal comm frequencies." Sarah stared at the display. "It's harmonizing with us." The chorus shifted again, and Nina felt her stomach drop. She recognized the pattern. It was her own voice, not speaking, singing. A perfect, crystalline imitation of her tone, her cadence, her breath. Then another voice joined it, Calder's. Then Sarah's. Then Joe's. The void outside the ship was singing with their voices. Nina's hands shook. "Captain, it's learning us." Calder's face was pale. "Shut down internal comms." Isolate all channels. Already done, Zhou said. It's not using our systems. It's resonating through the hull directly. The chorus swelled, filling the bridge with a haunting, impossible symphony of their own voices woven into something vast and alien. Then the words began. Not English, not any language Nina knew, but the meaning slid into her mind like a whisper behind her thoughts. Let us in, she gasped. Sarah clutched her head. Captain, I heard it too. Zhou stumbled back from the console. It's in our auditory cortex. It's bypassing sound entirely. Calder's voice was low. Everyone stay calm. The chorus grew louder. The hull vibrated harder. Panels rattled. Bolts groaned. Nina felt the deck plates trembling beneath her feet. It's trying to breach, she whispered. Calder turned to Zhou. Reinforce the hull. Maximum resonance dampening. I'm trying, Zhou said, fingers flying. But it's matching our counterfrequencies. It's adapting faster than I can compensate. The lights dimmed again. The chorus shifted into a single, unified voice, an impossible blend of all of them speaking in perfect harmony. Let us in. Nina felt something cold brush the edge of her thoughts, like fingers tapping on a window. She recoiled. Captain, she said, voice shaking. If it gets through. It won't, Calder said. But Nina wasn't sure. The hull groaned again. A deep, resonant shudder rolled through the ship. Zhou swore. Captain, we've got microfractures forming along the portside plating. How bad? Calder asked. Not critical yet. But if the resonance increases. The chorus rose in pitch. The fractures deepened. Nina felt the cold presence pressing harder against her mind. Let us in. She clamped her hands over her ears, though it made no difference. Captain, she whispered. What if it doesn't need to break the hull? Calder turned to her. Explain. It's already in our heads. Sarah's voice was barely audible. If it can resonate with neural patterns, it might not need physical entry. Zhou looked horrified. You're saying it could overwrite us? I don't know, Nina said. But it wants something, and it's getting stronger. The chorus shifted again, splintering into 1,000 overlapping voices. Some were familiar, some were not. Some sounded like children, some like the dying, some like things that had never been human. The hull vibrated harder. The lights flickered violently. Alarms blared. Zhou shouted, Captain, the resonance is reaching critical amplitude. Calder slammed his hand on the console. Emergency dampeners. Full power. The ship shuddered. The lights flared. The chorus screamed, then cut off. Silence. Total, absolute silence. The crew stood frozen, chests heaving, ears ringing. Zhou checked the readings. Resonance levels dropping. Hull integrity stabilizing. Sarah sagged against the wall. Is it gone? Nina stared at the darkened viewport. The stars outside seemed wrong. Too still. Too distant. Too watchful. No, she whispered. It's waiting. Calder turned to her. For what? Nina swallowed. Part 2. The silence after the third event felt heavier than the sound itself. It clung to the corridors, thick and expectant, as if the ship were holding its breath. The crew moved quietly, speaking only when necessary, their voices subdued, as though afraid to wake something sleeping just beyond the hull. Nina barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt the echo of the chorus brushing against her thoughts, like a memory that wasn't hers. She lay awake in her bunk, staring at the dim ceiling lights, listening for the slightest tremor. None came, but the silence was worse. By the next shift, she was back on the bridge, running diagnostics she knew would show nothing. Calder stood beside her, arms folded, gaze fixed on the starless void ahead. Any change? He asked. No, Nina said. Sensors are clean. Hull is stable. No resonance. Calder exhaled slowly. Zhou thinks the dampeners bought us time. Time for what? Calder didn't answer. Sarah entered the bridge, her expression drawn. Captain, I've been reviewing the neural telemetry from the last event. Calder turned. What did you find? Sarah hesitated. There were spikes. In all of us. Not just auditory cortex. Deeper structures too. Nina felt a chill. Meaning whatever it was. It wasn't just making sound. It was probing. Mapping. Trying to understand how we process information. Calder's jaw tightened. Can it cause damage? Not yet, Sarah said. But if the resonance had continued. She didn't finish. Calder nodded. Keep monitoring. If anything changes, I want to know immediately. Sarah left. Nina stared at the viewport. The darkness outside seemed thicker than before, as if the stars themselves were retreating. Captain, she said quietly, we should consider turning back. Calder didn't look at her. We're too far in, and we don't know if turning back would help. You think it's following us? Calder finally met her eyes. I think it's already here. The drift. The Argo novice continued through the null corridor, engines humming steadily. But the crew felt the shift long before the instruments registered it. The ship was slowing. Not by much, just a fraction of a percent, but enough for Zhou to notice. She stormed onto the bridge, tablet in hand. Captain, we've got a problem. Calder turned. Report. We're losing velocity. Engines are at full output, but something is counteracting the thrust. Gravitational anomaly? Nina asked. No, Zhou said. There's nothing out there. Nothing to pull us back. But the ship is decelerating anyway. Calder frowned. Could it be drag? A particulate field? Zhou shook her head. Vacuum is clean. Cleaner than normal, actually. Radiation levels are below baseline. It's like the void is denser. Nina felt her stomach twist. Captain, what if it's them? Zhou hesitated. I don't know what them is, but whatever's happening, it's not physical. Not in any way we understand. Calder paced. Options. We can reroute power to the engines, Zhou said. But if the deceleration increases, we'll burn out the coils. Do it, Calder said. Buy us time. Zhou nodded and left. Nina watched the stars, or the absence of them, drift past the viewport. The darkness felt closer now, pressing against the glass. Captain, she said softly. I think it's trying to stop us. Calder didn't respond. He didn't need to. The fourth event. It began with a whisper. Not a sound, but a sensation. Like a breath against the back of Nina's neck. She spun around, heart pounding. But the bridge was empty except for Calder. Then she heard it again. A faint murmur, just at the edge of perception. Calder stiffened. You hear that? Nina nodded. The whisper grew louder, threading through the air like smoke. It wasn't coming from the hull this time. It was coming from everywhere. From inside. The lights dimmed. The whisper split into multiple voices. Soft, overlapping, indistinct. They spoke in no language Nina recognized. Yet she felt the meaning slide into her mind like oil. We are here. Nina staggered back. Captain. Calder's face was pale. Zhou, report. Zhou's voice crackled over the comm. Captain. The resonance is internal. It's vibrating the air itself. That shouldn't be possible. Sarah's voice joined in, strained. Captain, neural telemetry is spiking again. Whatever this is, it's interacting with our sensory pathways directly. The whisper grew louder, clearer, more insistent. Let us in. Nina clutched the console. Captain, it's not asking anymore. The whisper shifted into a low hum, vibrating through the deck plates. The air felt thick, heavy, charged with static. Zhou shouted over the comm. Captain, the engines are failing. Something is draining power from the coils. Calder barked. Emergency shutdown. Protect the core. The hum intensified. Panels rattled. The hull groaned. Nina felt the presence pressing against her mind again. Stronger this time, more focused. You are open. She gasped, stumbling back. Captain, it's targeting us. Sarah's voice was panicked. It's synchronizing with our neural rhythms. If it locks on, the hum rose into a piercing tone. Nina screamed. The bridge lights exploded in a shower of sparks. Darkness swallowed them. The void within. When Nina opened her eyes, she was floating. Not in zero gravity. In darkness. Endless, suffocating darkness. She couldn't feel her body. Couldn't hear her breath. Couldn't tell if her eyes were open or closed. Then she heard it. A single note. Soft. Pure. Calling to her. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. The note grew louder, joined by others, forming a delicate, shimmering harmony. It wrapped around her like a cocoon, warm and inviting. You are not alone. The voice was inside her head, gentle and vast. We have waited. Images flickered in the darkness. Stars collapsing, ships drifting, minds unraveling. She saw faces she didn't recognize, mouths open in silent song. We seek entry. Nina tried to pull away, but there was nowhere to go. You hear US. You are open. Let us in. She felt something brush against her thoughts, probing, searching. She forced herself to speak. Not with her voice, but with her mind. What are you? The harmony trembled. We are hunger. We are memory. We are the choir of the void. The darkness pulsed. Let us in. Nina pushed back with everything she had. No. The harmony faltered. Then it screamed. 1,000 voices shrieking in unison. The darkness shattered. Return to the bridge. Nina gasped and sat upright. The bridge lights flickered back to life. Smoke curled from a blown panel. Calder was slumped against the wall, dazed but conscious. Sarah was on the floor, clutching her head. Joe's voice crackled over the calm. Frantic. Captain. Nina. Anyone respond. Calder groaned. We're here. Nina's heart pounded. Her skin was cold. Her hands shook. Sarah looked up, eyes wide. Did you see something? Nina nodded slowly. It spoke to me. Calder turned sharply. What did it say? Nina swallowed hard. It wants in. Not physically. Mentally. It wants to inhabit us. Sarah's face went pale. A parasitic consciousness? More like a collective, Nina said. A choir. Calder steadied himself. Can it be resisted? Nina hesitated. I pushed it back. But it's strong. And it's hungry. Joe's voice cut in. Captain, the engines are offline. Something drained the coils completely. We're drifting. Calder cursed under his breath. Options. Minimal, Joe said. We can reroute emergency power, but it won't get us moving. And the dampeners are failing. Nina felt the presence lingering at the edge of her thoughts. Waiting. Watching. It's not done, she whispered. The breach. The next tremor hit without warning. The hull vibrated violently, sending tools and loose equipment clattering to the floor. The lights flickered, then steadied. Alarms blared. Joe shouted over the comm. Captain, we've got a resonance spike on the portside hull. It's trying to breach again. Calder barked. Seal all bulkheads. Reinforce the plating. Nina felt the presence pressing harder. Its voice a low, insistent hum. Let us in. Sarah clutched her head. It's pushing into our neural pathways again. Nina gritted her teeth. We need to block it. Disrupt the resonance. Joe responded. I can try to generate a counter-frequency, but it's adapting too fast. Calder turned to Nina. You pushed it back before. How? I don't know, Nina said. Instinct. Fear. Willpower. Do it again. Nina closed her eyes. The hum grew louder. The presence pressed harder. You are open. Let us in. Nina focused on her own thoughts, her memories, her identity, her voice. She pushed back, imagining a barrier, a wall of light. The presence recoiled. The hum faltered. Joe shouted, Resonance dropping. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Nina pushed harder. The presence screamed. The hull trembled. Then, silence. Joe's voice came through, breathless. Captain, the breach attempt stopped. Resonance levels are normalizing. Calder exhaled. Good work, Lieutenant. Nina opened her eyes, trembling. It's getting stronger. Next time, I don't know if I can stop it. Sarah knelt beside her. We need a real solution. Something that doesn't rely on one person's mental endurance. Calder nodded. Agreed. Ideas? Joe hesitated. There is one option, but you're not going to like it. The null engine. Joe gathered the crew in engineering, her expression grim. There's a system we've never used, she said. A failsafe built into long-range vessels for emergencies in uncharted space. Calder frowned. The null engine? Joe nodded. It's experimental, unstable. It generates a localized warp bubble to push the ship out of hazardous regions. But it draws massive power, and it could tear the hull apart if misaligned. Sarah crossed her arms. What are the odds of survival? Joe hesitated. 50-50. Nina swallowed. And the alternative? Joe looked at her. We drift until the choir gets in. Silence fell. Calder finally spoke. Prep the null engine. Joe nodded and began issuing commands. Nina felt the presence stirring again, sensing their intent. You cannot escape. She ignored it. Joe activated the null engine's startup sequence. The lights dimmed as power rerouted. The deck vibrated with a deep, thrumming pulse. Warp bubble forming, Joe said. Stabilizing field. The hum grew louder. The presence pressed harder. Let us in. Nina gritted her teeth. Not this time. The null engine roared to life. The warp bubble expanded. The hull groaned. Sarah shouted, Field integrity at 60%. Joe yelled, Hold on. The presence screamed. The warp bubble collapsed inward, then exploded outward. Light swallowed everything. Aftermath. When the light faded, the Argo novice drifted in calm, star-filled space. Real stars. Bright. Warm. Alive. Joe checked the readings, disbelief in her voice. Captain. We're out. We're clear of the null corridor. Sarah sagged with relief. Did it follow us? Nina closed her eyes, listening. Nothing. No hum. No whisper. No presence. It's gone, she said softly. Or, it can't reach us here. Calder exhaled. Damage report? Joe scanned the console. Engines offline. Hull stable. Power reserves low but manageable. We can send a distress beacon. Calder nodded. Do it. Nina stared out at the stars, her heart finally beginning to steady. But deep inside, she felt something else. A faint echo, a memory of a note. Soft, calling, waiting. She shivered. Sarah noticed. Nina? You okay? Nina forced a smile. Yeah, just tired. But she knew the truth. The choir wasn't gone. Not entirely. A fragment lingered. Inside her. Listening. Waiting. And in the silence of her mind, she heard a whisper. We are not done. This is the end of the sci-fi story, The Vacuum Choir. Leave a like if you enjoyed the story, and subscribe for more sci-fi stories. Thanks for listening.